Welcome back to Time with Steel Garage. It looks like a Camaro has exploded in this shop because, well, it basically has. We got this thing pretty much stripped. It's time to get the engine transmission out and get it ready for media blasting. And we'll start getting that Detroit Speed subframe connectors welded in. Start getting that Holley Sniper 2 engine built and put this thing back together. Now, this is not a proud time of GM engineering. These cars are pretty much held together by C-clips and plastic, and they're garbage. I'm sorry if it hurts anybody's feelings. I'm a fan of these cars. They're still garbage. So to make this one right, we're going all the way back down to the shell, and we're starting over. So anyways, here we go. Let's get into it. Well, we already got the radiator out. We got the whole front clip off, obviously. Mechanical fuel pump is off. Next thing we're going to do is get this carburetor off of here. Now, most of this engine is junk, but this carburetor, for example, is brand new. I had just put this thing on here, and there's a lot of good parts on this engine that I want to save for swapping over to the new engine or just for other builds in the future. So these Moroso valve covers, I don't think they sell these anymore, these gold anodized ones. They're kind of a classic. Definitely going to keep those. And it's got a Fleabay HEI distributor in it, an Edelbrock intake, that's still good. And these Brawler carbs, I mean, like I said, I basically just got this motor running long enough to hear it was not a good motor with this carburetor. So it's a brand new carburetor. All the front accessories, the water pump, the alternator are new. It's got headers on it. Plugs and wires are good. Starter's new. That's pretty much everything I want. Transmission, power steering pump. Everything else I could care less about. So get this carburetor off of here and we'll go from there. Now, I've booked up a Carfax on this car, and the best I can figure with the story I know from the guy I bought it from and the original title owners, we are at least the 10th owners of this car. When I got this car, I got it from a guy who said he bought it from a guy that had bought it to use as a parts car for his other cars. And then in the process of trying to get the car titled, I ended up having to go on a little manhunt, if you will, to find the original owners. And you guys heard that story. I had a gun pulled on me. But the reality is, if you roll up to someone's house in Tennessee on a Sunday morning and they don't know who you are, pretty likely you're going to have a gun pulled on you. They ended up being really nice people. And I found out that the titled owners of this car sold it as scrap to a scrapper. And the scrapper, on his way to scrap the car, the titled owners didn't even know this car didn't get scrapped. They were shocked when I told them it was still a car. So at some point, whoever bought it to scrap it must have ran into the guy that needed parts off of it and then sold it to that guy for parts. And that guy took a bunch of parts off of it, and then the guy that I got it from sold it to me. So she's been around. And every single person that has had their hands on this car has done horrible things to her or taken parts from her. So in the process of disassembling, I realized it's missing hardware all over the place. It's missing certain parts here and there. Some stuff was taken apart the wrong way. Some stuff was reassembled the wrong way. So, like I said, best thing to do on a car like this that's had so many owners is just, all I care about is the roller. And it's my intent to teach my daughter how to build things with this car, how to build cars with this car. And really all I need is the shell. That's all I care about. All right, Brand new good brawler carb. We're gonna save that. I got one of those little, oh man, that carb gasket's still in decent shape. If you've ever pulled a small block Chevy out of anything, these carb plates are good to have. We'll make pulling this thing out of here super simple. So yeah, basically the last time it was registered on a Carfax was 4 owners ago, and that was the people that I got it from. I think I'm at least the 10th owner. They sold it to a scrapper, scrapper sold it to a guy for parts, the guy sold it from the parts guy, sold it to the guy I got it from, and then I got the car. So when I talked to the original owners, the last titled owners, they said that the car blew the transmission and they parked it in the yard, which makes sense because the transmission doesn't work. And a tree fell on the car and blew the passenger window out, which makes sense as why there's a dent on the B-pillar and there's no window glass on the door. So every car's got a story to tell. This car's story, it's been rough. But when I'm done with her, it'll be cool again. And I think for a first car for a teenager, it'll be a pretty cool car. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, I don't think this motor will clear the frame with these block hugger headers on, so I'm gonna take the headers off. And I'm also gonna get this HEI distributor out. And we'll bring you guys back at that point, so you're not waiting all day. Well, since this is a small block Chevy, taking the distributor and headers off took all of about 10 minutes, so we're gonna go ahead and unhook the transmission and the drag link. Somebody used a jack to lift the car under ground effect. All right, there's a header. Somebody swapped out the 700 R4 for a turbo 350 at some point in its life. But we gotta disconnect this torque arm here that these 3rd gens have, disconnect the 3 bolts here on top of the transmission, probably run a cargo strap underneath, drop the transmission cross member, and then it's 2 bolts up front and that's it. We'll have that thing out in no time. All right, we got the drive shaft and the torque arm out, and we got the transmission isolator mount, rubber mount disconnected. Trans cross member I'm going to leave in. I think I'll be able to just throw a jack under here, lift the back of the transmission housing up just a little bit so I can pull it out the front. Speedo cable's disconnected, shift linkage is disconnected, cooling lines will come out with the transmission as a unit. I don't care about any of those wires, they're all gonna get snipped. So all we got left to do here is those clamshell motor mounts, and we should be able to lift this whole thing out as a unit. Throw it in the trash. I told you guys before, but all I really care about this car is the actual core unibody. Most of the stuff I'm taking off is not going back on. So we're literally saving one. It doesn't get more saving from the scrapper than this car. This thing was on its way to being crushed, but it's got a clean title and the body's pretty solid now. The body does have its problems, but I don't know of a 3rd gen that doesn't. If you've got a 3rd gen with no body problems, you have a holy grail. I'm gonna get the cherry picker out here and hook up the chains and start jerking and gurking on this thing. All right, we got the cherry picker hooked up. I'm gonna try to get these motor mounts off real quick. Took the mechanical fuel pump off to make this passenger side a little easier. Well, that thing's not happy. I'm gonna have to get a little manual elbow grease on there. Okay. fucker is King Kong down there. Let's go to a bigger gun here. Golly. What is the problem here? Wow-wee. Oh, whoa-whoa-wee-wee. Well, there's one side out. I didn't think that was going to be such a fight, but it was. Let's try the other side. Apparently this girl's not happy about being taken apart. That's fine. Throw it on the floor. That's good. Let me just get on here. Good. Well, whoever put these on last was very worried about them coming apart. Wrong direction, dummy. Man. All right. We should be able to start hee-hawing on this thing and figure out what wires I didn't disconnect, and just cut them. Yes! Sure is gonna make my life a lot easier working on this thing when it doesn't weigh 8 gazillion pounds. Okay. I don't know, I might have to take the top of those clamshells out to see if I can bring the car down anymore. The transmission is hitting the tunnel. Might have to help the back of the trans up off of the tunnel there a little bit. Well, I don't want to take the transmission off. I think what I'm going to have to do is take these clamshells off. Should be 3 bolts. Somebody get these flies out of my shop, please. Oh, she just took a big old piece of skin out of my arm. That felt good. That felt real good. Whoa, Ooh-wee. I got an idea. I'm gonna have to drop that transmission cross member. All right, here we go. Here we go. Need my impact. It would be really awesome if I could get the right size socket the first time, every time, but it doesn't ever seem to work. It's nice. Okay, she's gonna move now. Whether she wants to or not, she's going to. Okay. There we go. Ha-ha! Ripping and tearing. Ripping and tearing. Yes, sir. All right, what do we got to cut? What do we got to cut? Yeah, we got to do a couple of snips. Snip, snip here, and a snip, snip there. Here, a snip there, snip everywhere, a snip, snip. I hear fluids filling on the ground. It's perfect. Oh, transmission fluid everywhere. Yep, knew that was gonna happen. Snip, snip here, and a snip, snip there. Here, a snip there, snip everywhere, a snip, snip. Come on, girl. There we be. What were you stuck on? Yeah, it's irrelevant. Oh, yeah. The old sandwich bag on the back of the transmission output seal, I forgot. But if I'm being completely honest, didn't really care. Easiest way to do this when the transmission and the engine are hanging like they are. Push the car. Perfect. How's this? You guys got a good view of this right now? Okay, good. Oh, Oh, power steering lines. Those should probably come off. Let me show you how to do that. Oh, it's already trans fluid all over the floor. Why stop now? All right. I think maybe now I could probably put this under there. Well then, I gotta look at this transmission because it almost looks like somebody swapped the tail section so that it could bolt a torque arm on. But this is a turbo 350, not a turbo 400 or a 700 R4, unless I'm losing my mind. Well, bye-bye car. It's going for a drive, I guess. It'll probably stop. Yeah, it stopped. Well, now it's coming back. Well, there you have it. There you have it, folks. Now I should probably clean up this mess. But in the meantime, let's go talk about what we got left. Remember when I told you guys that a Camaro exploded in my shop? Well, there you go. Engine, transmission, hood, rear hatch, all the new stuff from Holley and Detroit Speed, and all the rest of it. And most of this is not going back on the car. But now that we got this thing in what I wanted from it, which was the unibody, let's go over what I've found. And look at, now I can just move this thing around super easy. So this body's in great shape. Let's go over what's not in great shape. Not the first time the engine's been out, because somebody bent the hood, the radiator support there, pulling the engine out. This lower core support's got an upward bend to it that I'm gonna have to beat back down. And this fender, somebody put a jack right here and lifted the car up with probably by the ground effects, thinking it was solid here, and they pushed a perfect round dent into the fender, and what that did was push the fender out at this point. Now I actually was able to bend it back fairly well, but to really fix this, I'm just going to put a new used fender on this side. This door is solid. The rockers, solid. Floor is solid. The rear of the car looks good, hasn't been in an accident. Moving over here to this door, it's got rust, pretty decent amount of rust actually along the bottom edge, so I'm probably just going to replace that door. The good news is you would think the rocker would be all rusted out, but it's not. It's solid. So we need a fender and we need a door. This fender's good. Everything in the engine compartment is good with the exception of the battery tray. This piece of sheet metal is like $25, so that's easy. But now I can get this thing up on jack stands, get the parts off of it that I don't want. But really we're gonna get up on jack stands and we're gonna get underneath these pinch welds, straighten them out, start cutting the floors and get those Detroit Speed subframe connectors in. Now, I've already spent quite a bit of time straightening out these pinch welds, and you can see this pinch weld's all blown apart here, which is one of the reasons I like those Detroit Speed subframe connectors. I view them as restoration pieces because most of these cars have hit a curb or done something in their life that's messed all these pinch welds up. So once I get these things all straight and I weld them all back up to that square tubing from Detroit Speed, it'll put some integrity or put some structure back in the car, and it'll be that way on both sides. So hard to believe, but that's really all I wanted from this car, the car itself. So I think once we blast this thing, get it down to bare metal, put a coat of primer on it, it'll start looking a whole lot better than it does now. Get these awful wheels off of it. But really, it's hard to believe, you gotta trust me, this is a solid foundation for a 3rd gen build right here, and it's gonna look great. So anyhow, I hope you enjoyed watching me how to do a terrible engine pull, as always. And we'll see you next time on Time with Steel Garage. We'll start getting all these Holley parts and Detroit Speed parts into that bad boy.